Just after the midterm budget policy statement by Finance Minister Mr. Nene, basically we'll be doing some political reactions. First up is going to be the FF Plus, Dr. Peter Mulder. Basically, your assessment of the Minister's policy statement?
Yeah. Well, the Minister admitted in the beginning that the economic growth rate, he predicted 2%, is down to 1.5. But it seems that he succeeded to balance it in the end of the day. And I think most probably because in the beginning of the year there's a 1% tax hike for personal tax, and I think that buffeted it. The big problem, the question is, will he be able to do it next year and the year afterwards if the economic growth rate is down all the way? My problem a bit is he seems to be business as usual, and we're in a big crisis. We need something more specific to stimulate the economy. I'm thankful that he said they will try and regulate the state-owned companies, specifically where corruption concerned. We can't carry them all the time. And if that is some positive, I'll surely support him in that, but we can't carry these state-owned enterprises anymore, yeah.
Lastly, you talked about being advised on the wealth tax. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think giving a signal that in February he's going to raise the wealth tax. I'm a bit worried about that because we've already got a system where people as rich pay more. And if you really milk the cow on the top, we've got only 5 million taxpayers of 50 million. You can kill the cow and then we're dead. So let's hope. I personally would prefer that as a 2% over the board, not only going for certain people.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Peter Mulder from the FF Plus, giving his party's view on the budget policy statement. Coming up next is going to be the Chief Whip of the NFP, Professor Nhalnhla Nene. Prof, basically the NFP, your thoughts on the minister's speech?
Well, we expected the minister to say something about the upheavals in education, higher education in particular, in the light of the violent protests. But he said nothing, utterly nothing, in terms of funding for student fees, because to me that is paramount. This issue has been going on and it's been attended to. It must, but you know, countries all over the world invest in education. Now the economy is slowing down and we're not investing in education. In other words, we will not be having a future. We have got to invest in education. Secondly, he said nothing about plowing money into entrepreneurship, because they've got to put money there. Our economy is slowing down. There's a shrink in the economy, and he said nothing about poverty alleviation and unemployment. So those are the issues to us are important. There is drought in the country. I think more money must be put into the issue of drought. Water is needed. I mean, the energy supply also has caused a dent. I mean, there's not so much reference, except what we know about ESCOM, assets for ESCOM, paying the debt, etc., etc. But we needed more on those issues. These are the issues that are worrying the NFP.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Nhalnhla Nene, giving us his party's view on the budget policy statement, talking a lot about higher education, feeling that it was ignored by the Finance Minister. And now from the ACDP, Mr. Steve Swart, your thoughts on the budget policy statement?
Well, it's in a very difficult environment as you see what's going on here at Parliament at the moment. And obviously from a Christian perspective, we need to implore our viewers to be praying for this situation of what's going on. There's a high level of dissatisfaction. And yes, the Minister had very little fiscal room to move, but the situation here at Parliament has got to be addressed, where you have got students here that are complaining, that are demonstrating. Yes, law and order must be prevail, and it cannot be condoned any illegal action. But surely the Minister should have addressed this issue that is taking place in Parliament right now. He has got very little fiscal room to move. We see economic growth slowing down, but at the very least, we need to see some way of some meeting to engage with the students that are very upset at the moment, so that we can have a look at dealing with these issues, so that we don't have situations where the whole world is watching South Africa at the moment. We've got a fiscal consolidation path. It is sound and it is good. But this scene that we see today at Parliament obviously detracts from all the good that we are trying to do in the South Africans. So I implore South Africans to be praying, to be taking action, so that we can be addressing these critical issues facing our nation. We cannot allow the EFF as well to disrupt Parliament, as they continually do, and we see it today. We all share the sentiments. I have sons that are students. I have sons that are students at Stellenbosch and various universities. I appreciate the difficulties with the fees, the high fees. That situation needs to be addressed, but we need to bring calm and stability to our nation as we address this very important fiscal process.
Mr. Steve Swart, thank you very much for your time, sharing his thoughts on a budget policy statement that is the ACDP. And now we talk to the official opposition, the DA. The spokesperson on finances, Mr. David Mania. Your thoughts on the budget?
Well, what we hoped would happen, that the Minister would deliver an ambitious medium-term budget policy statement that would give hope to the 8.4 million people who are unemployed and to the thousands of students who are standing outside Parliament. But what we got was a business-as-usual medium-term budget statement, which didn't get to the heart of the critical roadblocks holding back jobs and growth in South Africa. And frankly, it's not good enough for the Minister to simply say that government are seized with the matter of student funding. What it points to is a complete failure to prioritize funding. Students can legitimately ask, why is there no money to assist poor students who are struggling at tertiary institutions when there is 1.6 billion rand to fund President Jacob Zuma's 74-person cabinet comprising of 72 ministers and deputy ministers? Equally, students will ask, why is there no money to fund poor students at tertiary institutions when in this budget we are going to be allocating 2.5 billion rand to the BRICS Bank? And again, students will be asking, why is there no money for poor students at tertiary institutions when there is, for example, 702 million additional rand allocated to 118 foreign missions, which the Treasury itself says are inefficient and not aligned with the country's strategic goals. This is a failure to prioritize funding. At the end of the day, what the students should be saying is Bladen Zamande must fall.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. David Mania from the official opposition, the DA, giving us his party's view on the budget policy statement. Now, moving along with the political reactions, we've got Umama Usbongile from the IFP. The IFP, your party's position on the budget policy statement?
We are actually quite shocked by what has happened. Actually, the minister had very little to say because there isn't much that he's going to do. We are still going to be seeing quite a lot of very, very poor economic growth in our country. We are seeing quite a sluggish economic growth in our country. We are seeing unemployment still rising. We are seeing quite a lot of anti-social issues still rising in our country. Now, the minister, having made his statements and actually having attached some monies to a few areas, the surprising part is that he did not attach any monetary value to the students, and we were actually quite shocked when he did not do that. That is why the students today are here, because of the NSFAS funds, which are not seen to be visible, where the students were even asking for Minister Bladen Zamande to come and address them, all such type of things. Remember, we had Rose Must Fall last time, now we have these fees as well. It is quite a crisis which needs to be addressed, and money has got to be allocated to it. We are also seeing quite a lot of debt actually being acquired by our country, and we're seeing a lot of imports coming in and exports not going out as much as possible. We will still be experiencing quite a lot of problems as far as our country is concerned, and that is a problem to us as the IFP. The energy issue is also a major crisis, where Eskom has still got to deliver, where other energy sources have got to be considered, so that we try and ensure that through the energy which is needed to run companies, to run, all those type of issues, are actually doing their part. Otherwise, we will still going on a downward spiral. We are in Africa, we are South Africa, and we need to be the trendsetters. But it seems as if over these years, we hardly learn. Our gross domestic products have actually gone down. We need to learn from what has happened. We are hoping that out of what the minister has stated as issues, which they will be addressing to try and turn the tide around, that it will happen. But it seems as if it's going to be quite uphill.
Right, thank you very much. Sibongile Nkomo from the IFP, that's the IFP Chief Whip, giving us her party's views on the budget policy statement. Up next, let's talk to the UDM, Mr. Ngaba Nkwankwa. The UDM's position on the budget statement?
Well, there was really nothing new in the medium-term budget policy statement, in the sense that it's full of the same statements of hope that were made in the past. But what is of particular concern to us as the party is the fact that government has gotten to a point where it draws down contingency reserves, in order to finance consumption expenditure in the form of wages in the public sector wage bill. And that wage bill continues to grow beyond the inflation, above the inflation rate, which confirms one thing once more, that they continue to use government as an employment agency. The other issue obviously has to do with these economic growth forecasts, where we're still growing far below 2% per annum. Like, for example, the forecast for next year is 1.7%. And if you're looking at sub-Saharan Africa, the currently growing continent is actually growing at about 4%. That can only tell you one thing, that there are problems with policy coordination, policy certainty, and the kind of policy mix that we choose as a country in order to grow this economy. The other issue, in conclusion, obviously has to do with the fact that we continued talking in Parliament, whereas there are students demonstrating outside. I came out and spoke to a group of students that was demonstrating here, and they told me that all they wanted was to be addressed by the Minister of Higher Education. And I relayed the message in Parliament, in the House, to the Minister, but nothing was done, which is very sad, because we are leading these people. These are our people, and this is the Parliament of the people. When they come here, whatever the circumstances under which they find themselves, we should be able to actually address them and talk to them and give them hope. That's what we are here for. That's what they elected us to do.
How do you think we can plug this, funding shortfall at higher education level?
Remember, there's a lot of wastage that takes place in various government departments. I think what we should be doing is to reallocate some of the resources so that we channel them towards higher education, because quite frankly, I'm sure there's no money, there's no extra cash available for us to do that. But if we reprioritize, we should be able to find resources within the system, even take budgets away from institutions such as Parliament and so on, and other arms of government.
Mr. Nhalnhla from the UDM giving us his party's view on the medium-term budget policy statement. We'll be back with civil society and other business leaders on the other side. But for now, back to you, Francis.